hey, it's really nice to see you again. Thanks for stopping by. Last time, I gave a little look-see at a place in Kanto that I don't really enjoy going through, the Rock Tunnel. It's basically just a dark cave that stands in the way of your progress to get to Lavender Town, full of trainers and wild Pokemon to slow you down. But now, I say we check out a very unique place in Kanto. I've probably said that a bunch of times, but this time, I mean it. And if you're new here, this is a series where I examine everything I can think of relating to a specific place in Kanto. We look at what kinds of wild Pokemon you can find, items of interest, what the NPCs say, how it plays out in the story, and how it's portrayed in future games, the anime, the manga, and the TCG. Pretty much everything I can learn about on Bulbapedia and other sites, all while looking at it from the perspective of it being your first time playing through Red and Blue. I have made 12 of these videos now, so do check out the playlist below if you want to hear me blather on about those places for anywhere from 9 minutes to over an hour. Yeah, Celadon City ended up being over an hour. Crazy. So by the time you've defeated Brock and made your way through Mount Moon, and catching a Paris for your team no doubt, you arrive at Cerulean City, the home of the Water Gym. You do some nonsense on a place called Nugget Bridge, where you defeat a handful of trainers and then get accosted by a member of Team Rocket at the end who also gives you a free nugget. Beyond that is Route 25, which is loaded with even more trainers, which leads you to a dead end and one single house. The sign says, Bill lives here. Oh, okay, cool. One question though, who's Bill?
Remember me? Bill?
Who?
You know, the guy you met at Cerulean City in the house?
Oh. Okay.
So upon entering, there's no Bill around, but there is a Pokemon standing there. If you talk to it, it says, Hiya, I'm a Pokemon. No, I'm not. Call me Bill. I'm a true blue Pokemaniac. Oh god, not one of those. Hey, what's with that skeptical look? I'm not joshing you. I screwed up an experiment and got combined with a Pokemon. So how about it? Help me out here. When I'm in the teleporter, go to my PC and run the cell separation system. So basically this Bill is Jeff Goldblum from The Fly. Or I guess technically David Hedison was The Fly first, but anyway. Once you bring Bill back to his normal form, he asks if you came to see his Pokemon collection, and really, nobody cares about that. So he instead gives you something called an SS ticket. He says it's for a cruise ship that's in Vermilion City where the passengers are trainers. Bill was invited, but as he puts it, he can't stand fancy dues. I mean, what a steal, am I right? All you did was press a button on a computer and you get a free cruise ticket. So once you make your way to Vermilion City, the port of exquisite sunsets, one person does tell you that the SS Anne is indeed moored in the harbor, so it seems like it's time to head south to the water. Someone there informs you that the SS Anne is a famous luxury cruise ship that stops in Vermilion City once a year. So once you flash your ticket, you can officially enter the SS Anne. Where is it going? Who knows and who cares? You got yourself a free luxury cruise ticket. So naturally, because this is a cruise ship, there are no wild Pokemon to be found here, so this episode won't be about that at all. Instead, it's all about talking to the passengers and fighting trainers and getting items, one of which is essential to complete the game. And it's actually a pretty big ship considering. There are 3 floors you can go on, plus the outside deck. The first floor contains 6 cabins in the kitchen, the second floor has 6 cabins, and below deck has 5 more cabins. So 17 cabins, a kitchen, the outside, and the captain's room.
12 cabins, 12 vacancies.
There are 27 unnamed people you can speak to gather some information, or just have them say random nonsense. There are 16 trainers to fight in total, 17 if you also count Blue, who is the only one you absolutely have to fight. There are 7 sailors, 2 fishermen, 2 lasses, 1 youngster, and 4 gentlemen, who I assume are the fancy dudes that Bill hates with a passion. And also the captain himself. So if I'm mathing right, that's 45 different people you can speak to on the ship itself, plus the 2 guys outside. Yeah, you can spend a bit of time here if you choose to. There are a combination of people working on the ship you can speak to, as well as some passengers in their own cabins. You can't exactly tell who wants to battle you and who doesn't, but one indication is if they are moving around, they will not battle you. The one worker in the hallway does tell you that the passengers are restless and the bored ones will challenge you, so you do have a forewarning. And without going over what every single person says, I'll just list a few that I think are noteworthy or kind of funny. One person confuses you for a waiter and requests a cherry pie. They must be so disassociated with where they are if they think this kid is a waiter. One guy tells you he's a global police agent on the trail of Team Rocket, and at this point, you will have had a couple encounters with Team Rocket. A couple of passengers have Pokemon with them, like a Wigglytuff and a Machoke, the latter of which hints at Strength being able to move big rocks. Strength being in all caps. Remember that for later. Same for another person informing you about Cut. One little cool thing is that one person shows you a picture of a Snorlax and says that in all of his travels, he's never seen a Pokemon sleep like this one. And you could have come across this Snorlax blocking your path to the east of Vermilion City already, so this is where you can learn about what its name is. Kinda cool. There's a father and daughter in one cabin who tell you about the Safari Zone in Fuchsia City having many rare kinds of Pokemon, and I kinda like when the game foreshadows places or Pokemon you'll come across in the future. The chefs in the kitchen are all people you can speak to but not battle with, and they say some relatively generic dialogue about cooking. Although one does tell you about Snorlax, as the second mention of it, and one informs you that you can get a great ball that's in the trash. And finally, there are a couple mentions of the captain of the ship. He is a sword master who can teach Cut to Pokemon, but unfortunately, he also looked really sick and pale. I think my favorite line is the one who says, "I hear many people get seasick."
Oh, do you?
But onto the trainers themselves. Sailors are almost exclusively found in the SS Anne, with one other being in the Vermilion Gym. They are presented as confident-looking dudes dressed in a sailor outfit because, obviously. They use mostly water and fighting types, and here you'll fight a mix of Shelter, Tentacool, Horsey, Staryu, and Machop. And yeah, these do make sense to me. They kinda look like these tough guys ready for a fight, so water and fighting just kinda fits. As one of them says, "You know what they say about sailors and fighting?" Although I actually don't know what they say and he does not choose to clarify. Another says he likes feisty kids like you, so really, it's best to just kinda stay away from these guys. Also, another one threatens to kill you if you lose to him, so that's cool too. Yeah, gotta keep it classy. The sailors here are only found below deck and on the outside deck, so just be safe out there. Fishermen are found here and they look just like fishermen. And obviously they use all water types, so the ones you'll fight here have Tentacool, Shelter, Staryu, and Goldeen. I don't really have much to say about them, they're pretty self-explanatory. Although one tells you that the cruise ship's party should be over by now because apparently you chose to ask him where the party at.
Old enough?
Old enough for what?
It's party.
Sure, you're only 11 years old, but come on, what 11-year-old wouldn't look for the cruise ship party? Lasses are pretty much all over the game, and the two here use Pidgey, Nidoran Female, Rattata, and Pikachu. But you can tell that these are some spoiled rich girls. One absolutely demands that you heal her poor worldly Pokemon that she collected from all around the world at the Pokemon Center if you defeat her, and yeah, fat chance of that happening. Deuces. The other one says that she never saw you at the party though. Yeah, there's that party mention again. It must have been off the chain.
Guess the party ain't over, huh? We're gonna have a long night of partying, man, I'm gonna tell you that, a long night.
The one youngster here only has one male Nidoran, and he just wants to be your friend. He's a sweet kid. Which leaves the fancy dudes themselves, the gentlemen. They are proper-looking older men sporting a top hat, suit, and cane, and like with sailors, they are exclusively found here except for one in Vermilion Gym. Yeah, Kanto is pretty devoid of gentlemen for sure. Gentlemen use some different types, and the ones here have Growlithe, Ponyta, Pikachu, and both Nidoran. And they're relatively nice to you, with the one saying that competing against the young helps keep him youthful, and another saying that his Pokemon are his only friends. But yeah, one just straight up hates you. He calls you a pup and a rude child and then screams at you to get out. In his defense though, you did kinda enter his cabin. I haven't been on a cruise ship myself, but I'm assuming entering another passenger's cabin without them knowing is frowned upon. So yeah, you are a pup and a rude child. I guess I'm on Team Gentleman. I guess I myself am a fancy dude. But also, yes, I know that this ship is meant to be for Pokemon battles, so maybe he should expect trainers to be barging on in anyway. Which leaves your fight against Blue, and he stops you just as you're about to enter the captain's quarters. He tells you that he's caught 40 kinds of Pokemon and then tells you to start crawling around in the grass. 40 kinds? Yeah, I don't buy it. I know people have said that it's possible that his Pokedex could technically be higher than 40 at this point, but hey, he specifically said caught. That to me means caught with a ball only, so evolving and trading are not counted in this. I will not be convinced otherwise. And this is kind of a notorious fight. He uses a Pidgeotto, a Raticate, a Kadabra, and the middle form of the starter that's strong against the one you took at the beginning. But there are a lot of fan theories here specifically about his Raticate, who mysteriously vanishes from his team after you defeat him here, never to be seen again. Sure, the obvious conclusion is that he simply wants to move on from Raticate in place of stronger Pokemon. Raticate is certainly not top tier in terms of stats or anything, so yeah, he probably just stored it in the PC. But there has been a long ongoing fan theory that his Raticate did indeed die in this fight here. Some clues presented are that you never see this Raticate again, and the very next time you see Blue, he's in the Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town, the place where dead Pokemon are laid to rest. He asks what brings you there because your Pokemon don't look dead. Is that implying that he's there because of his Raticate who passed on? Another theory to this is that the SSN leaves the harbor once you're done there, so perhaps Blue left his fainted Raticate behind. Are these all just coincidences? You make the call. I am personally on Team PC Storage because you can technically defeat this Raticate with like Magikarp's Tackle. This rat is not going to die from that. But yeah, just Google Blue's Raticate if you want to go down that rabbit hole more. Godspeed. After you defeat him, he also mentions that the Cutmaster is on board, but he's just a seasick old man. As for items, there is kind of a variety here with 9 different things to pick up, most of them just scattered around random cabins with trainers nearby that you have to defeat in order to pick them up. There are a couple random items like potions, ethers, and stuff, and also the TM for Rest and the TM for Body Slam. Body Slam is absolutely worth picking up if you can locate it. First floor, second room on the left. But ooh boy, there is yet one other infamous moment that happens here, perhaps the most infamous for how awkward it's presented. After you defeat Blue, you can enter the captain's quarters. Sounds all well and good as you see a man standing in front of a trash can. He tells you that he feels hideous, and your immediate reaction is to rub his back. Rub, 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 rub. Huh. Yeah, even as a kid, this just felt pretty weird. But hey, it suspiciously works immediately and he's all better. Although he does tell you that because he's ill, he can't show you his cut technique, but instead gives you HM01, a hidden machine that allows you to teach cut to any Pokemon who can learn it as many times as you want. You can now pass through those dastardly tiny sticks in the ground. But now that you've acquired Cut, the moment you leave the ship, it sets sail and leaves Vermilion Harbor forever. You do not get to go to wherever it's headed to next. Also, you better hope you got the items you would want from the ship because they gone. And thus, that little adventure is over and you can continue on to use Cut to enter the Vermilion Gym and meet Lieutenant Surge. So that's the SSN in Red and Blue. I feel like this place is easily the most intriguing your first time going there because in subsequent playthroughs, at least for me, I very rarely bother with talking to or fighting any of the trainers. The only one you must fight is Blue, so you can complete the SSN in just a couple minutes really. Run straight to Blue, defeat him, rub an old man's back, and then leave. Done. But if you do want to spend some time here and gain experience or money or any of the items, it can potentially take quite a while. It's also likely at some point that you'd need to leave to go to the Pokemon Center too, so this place is both pretty optional and mandatory at the same time. With that said, it is actually possible to skip the entire thing though. If you were traded a Pokemon who already knows Cut, you can simply use it when you get the badge that allows you to use it outside of battle, and can continue on through the game never needing to get HM1, and the SSN will stay there. That way, Blue's Raticate will go on living a comfortable and happy life. This is also where the famous truck comes into play too. If you never enter the SSN and continue on to get the ability to use Surf, you can indeed surf off of the dock here and to the right sits a mysterious truck. What does this truck do or what is it there for? Absolutely nothing at all. But back in the 90s, it was a popular rumor that if you got the HM for Strength, you could move the truck and underneath would be a Mew. This is of course not true, but those who allowed the SS Anne to leave the dock would go on wondering if this were true or not if they were told this, and they would have to restart the game in order to find out. Ah, the 90s, you had to be there. So with the Mew truck and the death of Blue's Raticate and the weird old man back rub and the fancy doos, the SS Anne does end up being pretty memorable. It's a place that disappears as soon as you get HM1 and leave, which is pretty cool. And apparently the name SS Anne comes from another Game Freak game called Pulseman. Saint Anu is the name of the computer in that game and they reused it here. The letters SS in an English translation means steamship. Knowledge is fun. As for the yellow version, there are really only 3 differences, and they deal with which Pokemon 3 specific trainers to use. On the second floor, there's a lass who replaces her Rattata and Pikachu with a Jigglypuff. It's a couple levels higher and she pays out more. Same with a gentleman on the same floor, he uses a Voltorb and a Magnemite instead of a Pikachu. They really did not want trainers to use Pikachu in that game, probably to make yours feel even more special. It is the special Pikachu edition after all. And lastly, Blue's team is quite a bit different. Since he no longer takes one of the original 3 starters in yellow, you will face off against his Eevee alongside a Spearow, Rattata, and Sandshrew. Yeah, definitely quite a bit less intimidating. Spearow replaces Pidgeotto, Rattata replaces Raticate, and Sandshrew replaces Kadabra, and Eevee replaces Ivysaur, Charmeleon, or Wartortle, and they all remain the same levels. I guess they really want you to forget about Blue's Raticate. On to Gen 3 with FireRed and LeafGreen, and really the only differences here are the items you can find. Every single trainer, including Blue, uses the exact same Pokemon from Red and Blue. The only change, of course, is that they have individual names now. Fisherman Barney and Gentleman Lamar are my personal favorites. As for items, most are the same, but because these games have berries, there are quite a few berries to obtain in the kitchen. It's kind of a cool little addition. Also, the TM for Body Slam is instead replaced by the TM for Brick Break. That is a fun move though, so I'm okay with it. But probably the biggest change here doesn't really have to deal with the SS Anne at all, but the Vermilion Harbor itself. Once the SS Anne leaves and you defeat Blaine's gym on Cinnabar, you can come back to the harbor to take a Sea Gallop ferry to travel to the Sevi Islands, which is additional Cantonian content for FireRed and LeafGreen. But gotta get the SS Anne out of there first. Also, as a fun side thing, they added a hidden lava cookie that you can find southeast of the truck in the harbor. Not as cool as a Mew, but hey, it's something. As for Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, you know there are going to be some changes. But first, I gotta say that I do like the look of the ship here. Like most of the trainers in these games, they tend to use less Pokemon, many of which only battle you with 1. This time we get 4 sailors using combinations of Seal, Machop, Poliwag, Slowpoke, and Psyduck, 2 fishermen with Goldeen, Horsey, and Magikarp, 3 gentlemen with Growlithe, Ponyta, and Sandshrew, 1 youngster with a Mankey, 1 beauty with a Pidgey and Pikachu, and a newcomer of an engineer with a couple Magnemite. Not too dissimilar, honestly. Some even return from Gen 3 like Barney and Lamar. Nice to see you guys. As for Blue, Trace, he simply uses a Pidgeotto, Oddish, and then either Pikachu or Eevee depending on the version you're playing. Once again, no Raticate. But really, who would even care about Trace's Raticate? You do run into Blue here, but you don't battle him, so maybe his Raticate is safely on hand after all. As for the captain, well, he's still sick, and you do still rub his back as it cuts to black. But instead of that weird rub thing, it says, there, old fellow. Is that better? Hard to say, but instead of giving you HM1, because HMs aren't a thing in these games, he teaches your Pikachu or Eevee the secret technique of Chop Down, and he even showcases it for you. I never really thought of that until now too. What does him being the Cut Master even mean? I mean, here he just kinda does a little hop and the tree goes away. Did he hit it with his fists or a sword like it said earlier? I'm even more confused now. As for items, nothing incredibly exciting here. Some berries, a nugget, revive, the usual. Blue does give you a Shallure Sable, which is unique, I guess. But ooh boy, we gotta check out the changes implemented in that 3-year gap in Gen 2 and 4. And, well, the SS Anne is just a thing from the past. There's a different ship that goes to the Vermilion Harbor though, the SS Aqua, which goes between Vermilion City and Olivine City in Johto. And even though it's an entirely different ship, the SS Aqua looks and feels very similar to the SS Anne. There are cabins you can enter, trainers to fight, and yeah, should I even count this? It pretty much amounts to quite a variety of trainers, and it even varies depending on which trip you're taking. Your first trip to Vermilion from Olivine will have different trainers, and then going to Olivine to Vermilion and even secondary trips to Vermilion from Olivine are also different. You can also get a metal coat if you help a gentleman find his granddaughter, which is pretty cool. But yeah, this could even be its own episode when I go over Johto, maybe even combined with an Olivine City one or something. There are certainly other ships throughout the series, and this is SS Anne focused for now, baby. Speaking of, I also absolutely must mention the SS Anne's appearance in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Say what? Oh yes, in the Oceanic Museum in Slateport City, there is a model of the SS Anne, and even the music heard here is a slightly different version of the SS Anne music. That's a nice touch. I never get to mention Ruby and Sapphire in these episodes. As for the anime, the SS Anne appears in 2 episodes in a 2-part series with its name changed to the Saint Anne. Paraspectre, that's a different ship than the SS Anne. Shut up, it's the same ship. The 15th episode of the original series, Battle Aboard the Saint Anne, is a bit of a strange one. Ash had just defeated Lieutenant Surge and gotten the Thunder Badge, and I don't know how he managed to use Cut to get into the gym first, but whatever. Ash, Misty, and Brock dream about being able to go onto a luxury cruise ship, but they know they can't afford it. Just then, 2 Ganguro girls appear and they say they're giving away free tickets to trainers that they think look pretty cool. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I can't miss a deal like that. Hey, wait a minute, it was Jesse and James all along. Yeah, this episode has a running theme of people being conned. Because, yeah, the entire plot of this episode revolves around a scheme by Team Rocket. And not just Jesse and James this time, but the boss himself, who got a brand new Persian, making Meowth pretty jealous. Team Rocket's plan is to get as many trainers on the Saint Anne as they can and steal all of their Pokemon. The boss says that spending all of that money on tickets to give away is a small expense to pay once all of the Pokemon get stolen. And bro, I gotta disagree there. Giving away multiple luxury cruise tickets just to steal some Pikachus and Geodudes and stuff? I mean, let's just do the math here. Anyway, Ash and company board the ship and discover a giant party taking place where trainers are showing off their Pokemon to other trainers, and I immediately started thinking about the movie Ghost Ship. Not sure why. Ash sees a Pokemon trainer battle going on of a Starmie versus Eradicate, and it's a nice touch to bring back an Eradicate reference here. And it's one of those gentlemen, nice. Eradicate ends up winning the battle by shattering Starmie's gem core, but the gentleman says it'll be okay, it was just a practice round. Yo, what? I'm no Pokemon scientist, but isn't shattering Starmie's gem, like, really bad? That's no practice round, I think this thing is going to die. So the gentleman asks if anyone wishes to challenge his Eradicate, and Ash immediately steps up and sends out his Butterfree. Just before Butterfree is going to win, the gentleman ends the fight, which annoys Ash. It then cuts to a salesman beckoning James over in order to con him into buying a Magikarp, telling him that this Magikarp will lay 1,000 eggs, and then those 1,000 Magikarp will lay 1,000 more, eventually yielding 1 billion Magikarp, thus making him rich. So James not only uses the advance in his salary to buy it, but Jessie's too, unbeknownst to her. And unlike the game here, we actually get to see the Saint Anne set sail with characters we're following on it. We then see the gentleman approach Ash to offer him a trade, his Eradicate for Ash's Butterfree. Ash decides to go through with it, although he soon regrets this decision. And I got to thinking, this really does not seem like something Ash would ever do. That Caterpie was the first Pokemon he ever caught, and he loves that Butterfree. But then I thought about it some more. He's just a kid. I even remember trading some Pokemon cards with kids at school and kinda regretting some after. You get caught up in the heat of the moment, feeling like you're about to get something rare and new by giving up something you may be tired of looking at. And then after, you ask yourself if it was worth it or not. So because he's just a kid here, I kinda can give it a pass. Because he does regret this trade almost immediately. But then it cuts to the big Team Rocket plan taking action, and even though it's kinda cool to actually see some grunts do some stuff here, this is really pretty silly, even for the anime. The grunts and Jesse and James use these little vacuum things here which just happen to suck up Pokeballs that each of the trainers have on them. But Ash convinces everyone to start fighting back. So there are these weird moments of Pokemon of the same species all forming pyramids to fight back. There's a Pikachu pyramid and a Charmander one and Bulbasaur, and I don't know, this is just pretty dumb. But they all absolutely murder these Team Rocket grunts, and at one point there's a bunch of Butterfree stun spore in a group, and Ash tries to send his out, forgetting that he traded it for Raticate. But just then, a terrible storm hits the St. Anne and the ship begins to violently rock back and forth. James loses his golden Magikarp ball and Ash goes to find the gentleman to reverse the trade. And because he's a gentleman, he can't say no, and Ash gets his Butterfree back. But he drops it immediately from the rocking ship. And in kind of a funny moment, everybody sees the captain getting aboard one of the life rafts because he wants to test it out, which of course results in extreme panic from all the passengers. And then the episode really gets pretty dark here at the end. We see most of the passengers on life rafts on the sea as the ship turns over and begins to sink. But Ash, Brock, Misty, Pikachu, Jessie, James, and Meowth did not make it off and are knocked unconscious. And in a moment that made me audibly laugh, the captain actually asks that if anybody didn't safely make it off the ship to please say "I," followed by a "Good, everybody's safe then." Yeah, this inept captain is much better than the one who wants back rubs. That's some dark comedy there. But in a rare moment, the episode ends on a to-be-continued cliffhanger. Pokemon Shipwreck is really a pretty nutso episode, I gotta say. There are some dark moments, some real stupid ones, but there is some good stuff here too. It picks up immediately after the last one and opens with a funeral. That's right, Officer Jenny is giving a eulogy for Ash, Brock, Misty, Jessie, and James as she throws a bouquet of flowers to sea. How she knows those 5 people specifically didn't make it off the ship, well, I don't know. Maybe there was a record of everyone on the ship and these are the only 5 who didn't make it out. Every single passenger and every rocket grunt, they're all just fine. But we then cut to Ash waking up from being unconscious as he discovers through Brock and Misty that the St. Anne has sunk almost to the bottom of the ocean or sea, but is dangling upside down on a rock. Jessie and James dream that they're on a beach, but they soon also come to and realize their predicament as well. Thinking they need to get off of the ship as fast as possible, Jessie brings out her Ekans to use acid on the floor, which obviously goes poorly and they get washed away. Ash, Brock, and Misty try to come up with a plan to get down to the deck of the ship so they can swim up to the surface, as Ash imagines himself drowning. Misty sends out her Goldeen to go investigate as Goldeen discovers Jessie, James, and Meowth actually drowning. Goldeen brings them back to Ash and company, and then, in an absolutely ridiculous moment, Ash, Brock, Jessie, and James all feel like now is the exact time to have a Pokemon battle. And to make it even worse, Ash sends out 3 of his. So we now have Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle, and Geodude versus Koffing and Ekans. The only one who makes any sense here is Misty, who says now is not the time for a Pokemon battle, and like, yeah, obviously, these morons. So now with all of these Pokemon out, the weight distribution of the ship starts to make it rock as they try to even it back out. Misty then reveals that, out of nowhere, she knows the blueprints for this exact ship because she built a model of it before. Yeah, how convenient that is. So she says they should all go to the hull of the ship and cut a hole out to make it to the surface. And the one aspect of this episode I do really like is that each of them use their own Pokemon in different ways to help them escape to safety. Goldeen went to investigate and actually save Jessie, James, and Meowth's lives. Brock has his Onix be a staircase for everyone to climb higher. Ash uses Charmander's Tail Flame as a light in the darkness. He has Bulbasaur use Vine Whip so everybody can walk across an open flame below, which is some cool stuff here. But then we get back to some pretty dumb stuff. Ash has Charmander use Flamethrower on the hull so they can all then use a water Pokemon to help them swim to the surface. So they somehow all find ropes, and Ash has Squirtle get he and Pikachu to safety, and Misty has her Goldeen and Starmie get her and Brock up to safety. Before doing so, Jessie asks what they're supposed to do, and Misty just kinda second-handedly mentions that they need to do the same with a water Pokemon to grab onto. And then without even asking or seeing if they do actually have one, the 3 of them just kinda take off and leave Jessie, James, and Meowth down there to maybe not survive. Yo, that is cold. I know they're the villains and all, but yikes. Aren't Ash, Misty, and Brock supposed to be the heroes? Misty even has a Staryu that she didn't even offer to them. I don't know, this never sat right with me. Even when they get to the surface, Ash and Misty are like, do you think they're still trapped on the ship? And Brock says, well, there's nothing we can do now. Hey, you guys ever read the Bible? And then he tells him the story of Noah using a bird to find dry land, so Ash uses Pidgeotto to do so. But Jesse, James, and Meowth being trapped is simply to try and pay off the storyline of James being swindled into buying that Magikarp. He thinks him doing so just saved their lives, so they all attach themselves to Magikarp, who just swims in place. The St. Anne finally falls off the rock and the ship sinks into the abyss, never to be seen again. But Pidgeotto actually notices Magikarp, who did bring Team Rocket to the surface. Way to go, little guy. But Ash, Misty, and Brock assume that they're all dead, so Brock says they need to give them a traditional burial at sea. Yeah, there are 2 funerals in this episode, plus multiple drowning scares. This episode isn't messing around. But of course they aren't dead and jolt up all at the same time. Meowth even falls into the water, and Pikachu gives a little "aw damn" when Meowth makes it back to the piece of wood. But now they're all trapped in the middle of the water, growing increasingly hungrier as they all imagine different ways they can cook and eat this poor Magikarp. And yes, I know that eating fish is obviously extremely common and a delicacy consumed worldwide, and they are worried about starving to death. But it's still pretty jarring to see this Pokemon, who are meant to be your friends and partners in this universe, be shown chopped up, diced up, and cooked in different ways. Is that just me? It's a little off-putting, right? And they all decide to go for it as Meowth lunges at Magikarp to bite into it and kill it on the spot, without realizing that according to the Pokedex, Magikarp is only made up of scales and bone, so Meowth breaks his fangs on it. Upset that they can't eat this Magikarp and all of the disappointment it put him through, James tells it he doesn't want it anymore and kicks it right into the face and into the water as it cries out. But for whatever reason, this causes Magikarp to evolve into the monstrous Gyarados, who proceeds to give them chase on this piece of wood. It then stops and calls out to 4 other Gyarados so they can use a collective Dragon Rage and pull them all up into a massive tornado. The episode then ends on yet another cliffhanger. Oh yes, this is a 3-parter. However, this is where I'll stop because we're done with the St. Anne now. Island of the Giant Pokemon is separate from the focus of this episode. But yeah, that does it for the St. Anne's portrayal in the anime. It goes into a way different direction from the game here, basically turning into the Poseidon adventure. And I mean, yeah, it's more exciting than talking to some people here and there before rubbing a man's back and learning Cut. So I can respect that they tried to do something exciting here. And again, I do love that they tried to implement most of their Pokemon to try and help in some way, some more so than others. Almost all of Ash and Misty's Pokemon played some part in their survival, with actually Pikachu being the least important one here. Ash has some dumb line about him wanting Pikachu to shock him to help him get an idea, so okay fine, he had to be used in some way. It's also cool to see Ash and company having to work together with Jesse and James, even though they pretty much leave them to drown. But yeah, I don't know, this 2-parter is fine I guess. It can just feel a bit too outlandish when the show tries to have these big disaster storylines. Maybe I'm in a minority there, but I personally think it's at its best in episodes like the first one and Ash catching the Caterpie. Still, these are pretty memorable episodes if anything. The 18th episode of Pokemon Chronicles, The Search for the Legend, begins with Richie and Sparky sailing on the SS Anne, and I gotta be honest, I really have no idea what Pokemon Chronicles is. This episode aired in 2006 in the US, and I was completely removed from Pokemon then, so this is new to me. But right away, the ship becomes stalled because 4 Gyarados appear blocking their way. Are these supposed to be the very same Gyarados from Pokemon Shipwreck? If so, that's kind of an awesome callback. Maybe one of these is the one James bought. But a man named Silver appears and he has no time for these Gyarados, so he sends out his Salamence to scare them away, and it works. He's on a mission to find Moltres, and he will not let some overgrown Magikarp stand in his way. His words. But Butch and Cassidy appear disguised as scientists, and there's some back and forth with them and Silver, and the SS Anne eventually reaches Mount Magma of the Sevi Islands. Richie gives the captain the old deuces and heads off to follow Silver and the doctors, and that's about it for the SS Anne here. As for Pokemon Origins, yeah, you know the drill here. The SS Anne is shown for like 2 seconds of Red getting cut from the captain. It's barely even worth mentioning here. Which just leaves the manga here, and yeah, it's in a few of them. Chapter 10 of the Red, Green, and Blue arc, Danger, High Voltorb. Red arrives at Vermilion City and sneaks on board the SS Anne. He gets startled by a Pokemon behind a door and gets kicked off of the ship. He then meets the chairman of the Pokemon fan club, yeah, the Rapidash guy, and everyone soon discovers that they've each had a Pokemon stolen from them. Red learns that Lieutenant Surge uses the SS Anne to transport Pokemon from Vermilion to Cinnabar, and yeah, that's weird. So he sneaks back onto the ship and gets attacked by a Voltorb pretending to be a Pokeball. This alerts Lieutenant Surge, who threatens Red and his Poliwhirl with electricity. Very sinister. The very next chapter, Buzz Off Electabuzz, has Red and his injured Poliwhirl surrounded by Lieutenant Surge and his sailors. Surge sends out his guard dog Electabuzz to attack Red, but he dodges it. But Poliwhirl had a plan all along. Poly was creating a puddle underneath Surge and Electabuzz, allowing it to use Ice Beam on the water to restrict them. Red and Poly escape with a smoke ball as they find that Magnemite are wandering the ship to look for them. A Magneton attacks them as Lieutenant Surge proceeds to throw Poly out into the water. What an evil thing to do, although it's a water type, it'll be fine. But Surge has Electabuzz use a Thunderbolt on Red, and then he has his Magneton throw Red out into the water to die. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much murder now. But in these events, Poliwhirl evolved into Poliwrath as it brings Red back to the ship. Poliwrath then uses Seismic Toss on Electabuzz and Surge, but Surge gets away. All of the stolen Pokemon get returned, and the chairman discovers that his stolen Abra had evolved into Alakazam. So yeah, a much more sinister take on the SS Anne here. Lieutenant Surge is basically a maniacal murderer here, so that's fun. In the 38th chapter, Long Live the Nidoqueen, Giovanni mentions how he used the SS Anne to transport stolen Pokemon from Vermilion to Viridian City. This ship is just used for all the wrong things in the manga. In the 55th chapter of the Yellow Arc, the Primeape Directive, the SS Anne only briefly appears as a means of Yellow planning to go off on her own after some training with Blue. But the next chapter, the coming of Slowpoke, eventually, Yellow and the chairman are on the SS Anne, which is now a passenger ship like in the game. But the ship soon gets attacked by the Team Rocket Elite trio, who proceed to sink the ship. Yellow and the chairman meet up, and Yellow uses her Almanite to freeze a hole in the ship. Yellow and the chairman reach the deck to challenge the trio. In Ekans the Ecstasy, the battle takes place. One of the trio's Slowpoke uses Confusion on the ship, which causes all the passengers to fall into the ocean. Yellow uses her Caterpie to use String Shot to rescue the passengers, and they swim back to the harbor. Yellow's Omanite uses Ice Beam on Team Rocket, which causes them to fall into the water. They use their Ekans and Weezing to knock Yellow off as well, but her Graveler is there to save her. With the help of Pikachu and Graveler, Team Rocket surrenders, but the SS Anne sinks into the harbor, never to be seen again. Man, this ship cannot catch a break. In every version of this ship appearing, it's never seen again in some capacity. Maybe it is the ghost ship. And lastly, the SS Anne did have an appearance in Pokemon Zensho. In the Vermilion City chapter, Satoshi does indeed rescue Bill back in Cerulean City from being a Nidoran. Bill gives him the SS ticket. Satoshi finds Shigeru on the SS Anne and challenges him to a battle. Satoshi's Charmander defeats Shigeru's Squirtle, causing it to evolve into Charmeleon. They then find the seasick captain and Satoshi gives him a bucket. Satoshi then defeats Lieutenant Surge and the captain gives him HM1 for cut. So yeah, this is pretty much exactly what happens in the game. They tried to go for accuracy here in Pokemon Zensho, I guess. And that about does it for the SS Anne. Its portrayal is either a very run-of-the-mill ship that you fight some trainers on, or it's the setting for a disaster movie, or Pokemon smuggling. Not a lot of middle ground there. As for me, I honestly don't find myself exploring it too much on Red, Blue, or Yellow replays. Go fight Blue, kill Raticate, get cut, get out of there. Done and done. I can't really remember my experience on it my first time playing. I mean, the temptation is there to see what's actually behind each door, and if you do walk in and see some item sitting on the floor, I mean, you gotta see what it is, right? It could be the TM for Body Slam. And that's really where the fun of the ship comes from in the main games, just seeing what's behind each door. Otherwise, not a whole lot happens here. Yet I still turn this into a 12-page script, all for a steamship that is destined to fade away into nothingness. So thanks again for embarking on another tour video with me. As you can tell, I'm quickly running out of places to talk about in Kanto. I know for sure that I'm going to do episodes on Victory Road and Cerulean Cave, but the rest I'll have to ponder. Some have requested Saffron City, and that's likely going to happen, and I've even gotten requests for that stretch of routes in the southeast. We'll just have to see how I feel when the time is right. For now, many St. Anu-sized thank yous go out to all of my awesome Patreons at the end here. Check it out at patreon.com/Paraspectre if you want to see what's going on over there. I will absolutely not be giving you all back rubs though, because that's just creepy. Paraspectre will return.